Welcome to the 21 Lines of Inquiry podcast that's all about helping you discover your UCW, your unique contribution to the world. Join us as we delve into the 21 questions that will help you be more intentional about bringing your gifts into your career and your life overall. So when you're ready, let's get started. Hi, it's Anita, and in this episode we're going to switch track a little and look at any failures or setbacks that you may have experienced in your career so far and explore what clues this can provide in relation to your UCW. The question I want to ask you is this: how have you handled failure or setbacks that have impacted your career so far? Now, I realise I'm making an assumption here that you have experienced a failure or setback to date, but it may well be that for some of you listening that you haven't yet had that opportunity, in which case feel free to move on to the next episode and return to this at a later date. I should just clarify though that what I'm calling a failure here is simply something that felt like a failure to you at the time because it was in your control in some way and you didn't quite get the results you wanted. For example, maybe it was not getting good enough marks or grades for what you wanted to do. So for me, I didn't do as well as I hoped in my A-levels and I wasn't able to take up a conditional offer that I had to go to Cambridge University. And what made this hard for me, although it's a long time ago, what made it hard for me to accept was, in a sense, the disappointment and frustration that I had with myself. I found myself thinking at the time lots of things that began with the same four words: if only I had ... And then what I mean by a setback is more something that happened to you that prevented you from going in a direction that you wanted in some way. But there probably wasn't anything that you could have done differently that would have affected the outcome. So examples of this could be a job that you went for that you were perfectly qualified to do, but you didn't get it for some reason. Or maybe a promotion that you wanted and you were ready for, but then it just went to someone else. So what can make situations like this difficult is not so much frustration at us ourselves, although that can be part of it, but at other people or the world in general. So I remember I did a summer internship at the New York Times in the middle of my 2-year MBA. Now, often summer internships would lead to the offer of a full-time job when you graduate. So when I finished my internship, I was told that there were no full-time jobs being offered, only to find out that when I got back to business school, one had indeed been offered to someone else in my class who hadn't even done the internship there. Now, even though I had nothing against this other person at all, it felt like a setback at the time because there wasn't anything I could have done any differently here. My face simply didn't fit, and the fact that I found out about it in this way made it quite a painful experience. So how can experiences of failure or setback give us clues as to our UCW? Well, there are two ways, I think. The first is to look back at the experience and ask yourself honestly, was it really what you wanted? Or was it someone else's dream for you? So for me, going to Cambridge University meant something to my school. No one had really gone there before, and to my parents, they came from India, and these were markers of success back at home. So, although it would have been nice, it wasn't really my dream for myself, and the decision, in a way, helped clarify that for me. And the second, even if it was something that you wanted at the time, like for me with the New York Times, ask yourself what that particular door closing then made possible for you, a bit like the film Sliding Doors. So for me, not getting the job at the New York Times led to me coming back to the UK after graduating and starting a quest for a job that was right for me, and that eventually led me to where I am today. And this may well not have happened had I just taken a job at the New York Times and stayed there. So what is the message here? Well, what we call or even experience as failure or setbacks at the time, of course, can hurt and be painful. But when embraced, it doesn't have to be an obstacle to us finding and offering our UCW. In fact, it is often because of these experiences and because they are painful that they create the most useful and lasting learning opportunities. And even setbacks, which happen to us, can act as signposts that help move us in a direction which ultimately is better suited for us. So now think for yourself, what experiences of failure or setback have you experienced so far? What have you learnt from these? And how have they brought you closer to your UCW? Or if you don't feel they have yet, how could they? And when you're ready, I'll see you in the next episode.